Michelangelo was born on March 6, 1475, to Francisca de Neri and Ludovicio de Leonardo. He had four other brothers, Leonardo, Leonardo, Gismondo, and Giovan Simone. Our young Michelangelo grew up in Florence, Italy, to numerous parents. During his youth, he worked for various artists of the time, and it was during this time that he was introduced to art.
Michelangelo, fetch me that bottle of paint.
Yes, Dominicio.
Ah, beautiful. As you will notice, I'm trying to build up the layers in the background. Right now, it's just trying to balance out the whole piece. Do you see?
No, I see it. What are you painting?
I am painting the great Burmese jungle.
Looks like my grandma.
After leaving his workshop, Michelangelo moved to Rome. It was here in Rome he created one of his most famous masterpieces.
Hello, are you Michelangelo?
The one and only.
You are in a very in-depth sculpture, no?
Yeah.
Well, we want you to finish something for us. We have an unfinished sculpture that we want you to finish. We first asked Augusto de Ducci and Antonio Rossellino, but neither of them finished it. We have heard a lot about you and heard you are a very adept sculptor.
What were they making?
Anyways, we're not really sure. They quit, so then we just have a big block of marble sitting there.
What do you want me to sculpt it into?
We want you to make David.
What's the condition of this block of marble?
Oh, it's barely used.
Awesome. I accept.
Michelangelo started his masterpiece David in 1501 and finished it in 1504. It stands 13 feet tall and 1 inch, and now presides in Academa Museum in Florence, Italy. 2 years later, he returned to Florence and was asked to paint a very important painting, which was his only painting he painted while he was in Florence. So I want you to paint something for me.
Are you sure you want me to paint? I'm a much better sculptor.
I've heard much about you. You're just perfect for the job.
Well, what do you want me to paint?
I want you to paint Mary Joseph, little baby Jesus.
Experience of tempera painting, Michelangelo created a masterpiece. The Holy Family is Michelangelo's only painting while he was in Florence. He painted it from 1504 through 1506. 2 years later, he was asked to paint one of the masterpieces of Western art, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. He was asked in 1508 by Pope Helios II to paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Asking him to paint it was very odd, because at the time he was known for sculpting, not as a painter. It is now thought that the Pope actually wanted him to fail, thus making other artists such as Raphael at the time to become more popular, and making Michelangelo seem worse. While painting the Sistine Chapel, it was Michelangelo in great discomfort. It should be noted that while he was painting the ceiling, he was a whopping 68 feet in air. If he fell while painting, he most likely would have fallen to his death. There he was, whipping paint and plaster off his forehead, painting arguably the most impressive fresco in the world. He started in 1508 and it ended in 1512. From 1512 through 1532, he painted and sculpted numerous paintings and statues for various clients across Italy. In 1533, he returned to the Sistine Chapel.
Ask if you a job yet again.
Does it have anything to do with the painting of the Sistine Chapel?
Why, yes it does. I need you to paint a magnificent scene above the altar, and these are some sketches we want you to do. Can you do that for the church?
I suppose I can. Was the ceiling not enough for you?
Ah, yes it was. But we want the Sistine Chapel to be known around the world, and believe you are the artists that can do that.
The Last Judgment was by Michelangelo between 1533 and 1541. It is the second largest fresco in the Sistine Chapel, second to the frescoes on the ceiling depicting the book of Genesis. It contains more than 300 males and angels all together. The fresco as a whole is breathtaking. It takes hours to take all the little details Michelangelo painted. After painting The Last Judgment, roughly 30 years later, Michelangelo caught a fever he would not recover from.
Hey, buddy, are you okay?
Yeah, I was fine. Just about to take a walk.
Michelangelo, while sculpting, caught a fever. He persisted he was fine, and went on for a walk during the night in the cold air, most likely worsening his condition. He spent the next day by the fire in his home. He eventually crawled in his bed, where he died overnight. His nephew, Leonardo, took his body and brought it back to Florence, where he is buried to this day. Some 500 years ago, Michelangelo is considered to be a part of the Renaissance period, which was widely popular across Italy and Europe at the time. The word Renaissance itself means rebirth or reawakening. It's possible Michelangelo was a part of the church reawakening, or the Reformation, which was led by Martin Luther. Looking back to his life, he is now widely considered to be the leading artist of the Italian Renaissance. Michelangelo would sometimes spend years on one art of work. Showcasing his dedication to finish something, he paid attention to all the details in his artwork. His works of art are still inspiring people to this day.
I'm Domenico.
I'm the narrator.
I'm a banker client. I'm the Pope.
I'm Michelangelo.
Introduced to art.
Michelangelo, fetch me a bottle of paint.
Yes, Dominique.
God dang it. Stop.
Can you splice that?
Vicio de Leonardo. He had 4 other brothers: Leonardo, Bronardo, Gispardo.
That's going to the bloopers.
He created one of his most famous pieces.
We have to have a blooper.
In his workshop, Michelangelo moved to Rome. It was here in Rome he created one of his first masterpieces.